Tanya. So we learned in a brisa. Abba ben Yamin Omer. Abba ben Yamin said as follows. We're going to have a number of brisos where Abba ben Yamin has something to teach us. So he says, Shnaim sheniknasu lehispalel. Let's say you have two people that come into daven. In a certain, we're talking about Ma'ariv. V'kodam echad mehem lehispalel. One of them finishes davening before the other. And he doesn't wait for his friend to finish Shmona Esrei. Rather, he just leaves right away. So why is that such a big deal? We talked about this a few days ago when we talked about the institution of Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen Amen. That it used to be people davened in woods or areas where it was a little bit more dangerous to be on your own. So you imagine if there's one person still davening Shmona Esrei and then his friend leaves. And he's left there. It's dark. It's dangerous. So besides the fact that he's going to have perhaps a difficult time getting home, he's also going to have no kavanah for the rest of the Shemona Esrei. So by leaving, you've really messed up his tefillah. And because of that, torfin lo tefillah so befanav. Because of that, therefore, this person, the person that left early without waiting, his prayer is torn up. It's not answered. It's made null and void. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Torah nafsho be'afo. A person will literally means that his soul will be torn up in his anger. But I guess we're allegorically understanding nefesh in this context to mean tefillah. And halamancha te'azev aretz. On your account, should the world be destroyed? Pashup Pshat. This is a pasuk that's discussing the negative effects of anger. Somebody that's angry, the entire world could be destroyed for his sake. He's that upset. But we're learning the pasuk to mean, I suppose, that a person's tefillah is torn up, he is making himself into a person that the entire world could be torn up on his account. That he views himself as so chashuv that therefore he doesn't need to wait for his friend. Mm-hmm. Because of that, he causes all this to happen. Below Od. Not only that, this person that leaves early, he also causes not just his own tefillah to get ruined, as well as his friends, but also the Shekhinah leaves Klal Yisrael. The end of that pasuk is, and the rock was uprooted from its place. The rock being referred to here must be referring to God. Shenemar has another psukim. This is in Chumash and Devarim. That the rock of your founding. You've abandoned. But God being like our foundation stone, I think in Modim we call Hashem Tzur HaOlamim. Is that the right term? We call him Tzur in some point in Modim. I don't remember what the exact wording is. But so in other words, a person has to make sure that if there's one person left davening Ma'ariv Shemona Esrei, you're supposed to stick around until they're finished so that they don't get anxious and they don't get nervous and their tefillah isn't ruined. The halacha, that's true, but with two important caveats. As we said at the beginning of this case, is Shnaim sheniknasu lehispalel, if they come in at the same time. If you're davening Shemona Esrei, you're in the middle, and then somebody else comes late to Ma'ariv, so that person is, I guess, forfeiting their right to be able to have that, like that you guarantee that you would stick around to protect them. And then also the Mishabura talks about if the person is being marveh betchinos, the guy is davening a really long Shemona Esrei, he knows exactly what he's doing. So then in that situation also, that person is clearly somebody that doesn't, he's not concerned about whether or not you leave, so then you can go. And then others also argue, all of this might not apply. There's Manazeh, you daven Ma'ariv in a relatively safe place. You daven Ma'ariv perhaps while it's still even daytime, as we do, if you go to the Plag Minyan. So then this halakha is not of concern at all.
If you leave one man standing.
Right, if you leave one man.
Where did they go in?
Sorry?
Where did they go in, Nichnasu?
I don't know, even if it wasn't necessarily a structure, let's say some area in a forest. So you nichnas, you come to the area that everybody designated to meet. That would be where this applies. One thing that definitely comes out here is that the concern is you don't want to mess up the guy's kavanah and Shemona Esrei. The kal v'chomer other things that we could do in davening when perhaps we finish Shemona Esrei that could disturb another person's kavanah would be a very bad thing. Okay. Bava Manalef. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Yossi said in the name of Rabbi Chanina. Oh, sorry, I forgot the question. The question ends in the previous Amud. V'im himtin lo maskaro. Let's say I do wait for the guy. So then, what's my reward? So Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Yossi said in the name of Rabbi Chanina, Zeik lebrachos halalu. You will merit the following brachos. Shenamar. They quote a pasuk from Yeshaya. And alu hikshavta lemitzvosai. And the reason why we're quoting this is not just out of nowhere. Hikshavta, literally it means to listen, but it could also be understood to mean waiting. So I guess in this context we're using it to say this is what happens if you wait for your friend. That if you wait for and accomplish my mitzvos by doing this waiting, vayikanar shlomecha, your peace will overflow like a river. Your righteousness will roar like the waves of the ocean. And your progeny will be like the sand, and you'll have many descendants. Things will be good. So stick around, let your friend finish Monesei and have kavana, and then we'll come safely with you. Okay. Tanya, another price is said in the name of Abba Binyamin. Abba Binyamin Omer, Il Molinis Nerishus La'ayin Leros, In Kobria Yechol La'amod B'fnei HaMazikin. So we talked again about Mazikin earlier, yesterday, and I think on Daf Gimel also. Mazikin are the dangerous forces, Shadim. We're going to learn some interesting stuff about them now. I don't really have any particular additional insight as to what's going on here. You'll see the Gemara, it sounds even a little strange. But he says, if not for the fact that if our eye would have the ability to see these mazikin, so nobody would actually be able to survive. It would just be so shocking and frightening if you could see what in fact is around you. It's a good thing we don't see it.
That's where you have no insight, right?
What?
That's where you have no insight.
Yeah. Amar Abaye, absolutely. Abaye says, Inhu nafishi minan, they are much more than us. They outnumber us significantly. V'kaimei alan, and they live among us. Kikasa le'ugya, and they are like an irrigation ditch around the mound of soil. We're surrounded. All of us are surrounded by mazikin. Amar Ravuna said, Kol chad v'chad minan. Each and every one of us, alpha mismalei, we have 1,000 of these mazikin to our left, v'rvavasa miminei, and 10,000 of them to our right.
Yeah.
We're steeped in them. Amar Rava says, Hai dochka dehave bechala minayhu have. Rava says, you ever have that feeling of being pressed and restricted while you're at a lecture? Claustrophobic, yeah. So it comes from them. Even if there is space around you, the fact that you feel squeezed is because there's mazikin all around you. It is in fact more packed in the room than you think it is. The tiredness of your knees, that comes from them also, that apparently your knees have to push against these mazikin. The clothing of the rabbinical students, right? They're not running around, they're not wearing down their clothing through their activity, they're just sitting around. But they still nevertheless get worn out. It's because of the fact that these mazikin are rubbing their clothing. Oh, sorry, did I switch? Did I? And when you knock your feet together, when you trip up, when you're walking and you stumble a little, your feet somehow manage to hit each other. That was what they did. They're messing around with you. Okay. So we attribute a lot of things to these mazikin according to Rava. Let's say you want to know about them. You want to sense their presence. There's two tactics we're going to discuss. One to actually prove their existence, I guess, so to speak, and the other is to actually see them. Yeah. So the first is to just prove their existence. If you want to have some demonstration of the fact that these mazikin exist, so laisi kitma nehila, take up some ground ashes, v'neder akuraya, spread it around, make a perimeter around your bed at night, go to sleep. If it's after you wake up in the morning, you're going to see imprints of chicken feet. That's apparently the kind of feet that these mazikin have, and then you'll know that they were there. Okay, I don't know what any of this means. Rabbi Torchiner quoted on Shabbos at the Rogachever, I think, said, once the Rambam said that there were no shadim, they paskin like it, they agreed. So we'll see. Let's say you actually want to see these shadim. So let's say take the placenta of a black cat, the daughter of a black cat. Then make sure that this black cat is a firstborn black cat, the daughter of another firstborn black cat. I'm not sure how you're going to get this lineage demonstrated, but take that placenta of this cat now and burn it in a flame with a shachke, and then ground it down into a powder of ashes, and then fill your eyes with it. I don't recommend this for health reasons either. And then you'll see them. Okay. and then make sure that whatever you have left in this ash recipe that you made, put it into a tube, the parzala of iron, and then seal that iron tube up with an iron seal. Because maybe those shadim are going to steal it from you. They don't want you to see them, I guess. So they're going to protest. I mean, they're all around you, so they see you're making this concoction. They're going to stop you if you don't stop them. And also make sure that you keep your mouth closed so that they don't damage you. Apparently, after you see them, they'll want to jump into your mouth. Rabbi Bar Abai Avid Hachi. Rabbi Bar Abai, he actually did this. He followed the directions. He wanted to see mazikin. Chazav Izak. He saw these mazikin, and then he got damaged. They apparently beat him up or something. Bo Rabbanan Rachmei Alei V'itasi. The Rabbanan, the rabbis, however, they prayed for mercy for Rav Bibi, and he therefore recovered. But I think that's probably a message from the Gemara. Don't try this at home. It's a bad idea. Okay, that's all we have about Shaitan for now. Yeah. Okay, Tanya, learn in the Brayso of Binyamin Omer, another statement by Abba Binyamin. Ein tefillah shel adam nishmas ela bebeis haknesses. The prayer of an individual is only heard, or at least it's certainly more, Hashem is more receptive to one's tefillah if he says it in a shul. This isn't just talking about going to minyan. Even if for whatever reason you miss minyan, but you have the ability to go to shul, it's better to daven b'yechidus in a shul than to daven b'yechidus at home. It has its own value to go to a set place for tefillah. Shene'emar, as you have a pasuk that says as follows: L'shmo el harina ve'el hatefillah. Hear as I hear our song and our prayer. And then we elaborate on that. But makom rina sham te tefillah. The place where there is song, that is where tefillah should be. And apparently the synagogue of Abba Binyamin was a place where there was a lot of songs, so that's how he was able to make that association. Amar Rabin Barada, Amar Rav Yitzchak. Rabin says in the name of Rav Yitzchak, Minayin sha'akadosh baruch hu matzei b'beis haknesses. How do I know God can be found in shul? Shenemar Elokim nitzav ba'adas kel. God stands in the among the congregation of God. It sounds like in places where people get together. And how do I know that God comes not just to a shul, but also, let's say there's a minyan that's not in a shul, God's there too. Certainly if you have a minyan in a shul. Same pasuk. The word Edah is understood to be a reference to 10 men. I think the root of that is the Meraglon. Moshe refers to the bad Meraglon. So the 12 minus Kalev and Yehoshua, so that gives 10. So that's the number of 10, and that's how we understand the amount that comprises a minyan. Okay. How do I know that when 3 judges get together to make a din Torah, that the Shekhinah is with them as well? As it says, pasuk in, I believe, Tehillim. I think this is it's in Shir Shal Yom. One of the Shir Shal Yom. It is in Tehillim, yes. So that God is amongst the. Sorry, I shouldn't say Elohim. This is Shem Chol. Bekerev Elohim Yishpot. Amongst judges, God judges. So he's with them, so to speak. How do I know that when 2 people are sitting and learning B'chavrusa, that God is with them as well? Then the words of the fears of heaven, words of Torah, one amongst another, the Vayakshev Hashem, that God listens to those, the Gomer. So God is listening and perhaps involved somewhat in Chavrusa learning. What is the implication of the continuation of that pasuk of those that think of His name? Rav Ashi says, "Chashav Adam lasos mitzvah." Sorry, did I skip a term? I think so. They're just asking, right? They're asking Stam while we're talking about this pasuk about Nidbru Yirei Hashem, Yishav Yakshiv Hashem and Gomer. So they're saying, what does the remainder of that pasuk mean? So and God is also with the people that think of His name. So what does it mean to think of His name? So Amar Rav Ashi says, Chashav Adam lasos mitzvah. Let's say a person he has in mind to do a certain mitzvah, v'nenas, but some unavoidable mishap occurs that he doesn't get to do the mitzvah. Below asa, he doesn't do it. Ma'ale alav akasav ki'ilu asa. So this verse is saying that God is with this person anyways, as if this person did it. Intentions matter to some extent, and if you don't get a chance to do a mitzvah, but you really wanted to, and you really put in every effort that you could, so Hashem appreciates that. Okay, back to our discussion of who God is with. How do I know that God is even with one person that's learning? Shenemar, a pasuk in Shemos. B'chol makom asher azkir shemi, wherever God is speaking, wherever my name is mentioned, avo elecho ve'rachticha, I will go to that person and I will bless him. Okay, so now the Gemara says, once you've told me the biggest chiddush, perhaps, that God is with even one person learning, trey mi BAYT, what do you have to tell me two for? So trey, miksavon milayu b'sefer hazakronos. Two is when you have a chavrusa learning, it's not just that God is with them, but also that their words are actually recorded in the book of remembrances. Perhaps la'asid lavo, their words have more of an impact in terms of their permanent record, I guess. But if you have one person learning, his words are not going to go into that sefer. Okay, I'm not sure what exactly that means.
Because he could make an error.
He could make an error. It says in the
it says in the notes he can make an error.
Oh, apparently a person's right. That's the truth. When a person's learning on his own, he doesn't get to actually have a give and take with somebody else. He can very easily make mistakes, and I guess that would be a learning that isn't worthy of being put to print, so to speak. Yeah.
Tyson says when you learn with two, you're written with other people. If you learn by yourself, it's only written by yourself. And the same for Levada.
I mean, there is a notes of the thoughts of one person. Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a more permanent book apparently that when you learn Bechavrusa that it goes in there. Now once you tell me I've got two people learning together, I have the Shekhinah, plus I need three. So so the reason we had to tell you about three making a din Torah, that the Shekhinah is with them, is that you may have thought that these people are just creating peace. That's essentially what a din Torah is. It's putting the Torah to practice. That doesn't really count as Torah study. I would have thought, therefore, that God doesn't come to them. Kamash malan, dina nami hainu Torah. Therefore, we said this to come and teach you that when three people get together to make a din Torah, to actually apply the knowledge that they have, that's certainly considered the Divrei Torah, and God is with them as well. Okay, once you've told me three, asara mi BAYT, why do you have to tell me 10? So say asara kidma shechina va'asya. If you have 10 people, the Shekhinah actually gets there first. God is very much makshiv. He attributes great importance to this get-together. But if there's a gathering of three, so God doesn't come until everybody gets there first.
Does God know that 10 will be showing up?
You know?
Yeah, I think God knows. He's somebody that knows. Okay.
And we worry.
Amar Rav Avin bar Rav Ada, Amar Rav Yitzchak. So now we have a statement by Rav Avin. Because I think we quoted, this last statement of the various numbers was Rav Avin. I think that's the connection between all of these things. What was it, Rav Avin? Yeah, Rav Avin was the one that started this whole conversation about God being in shul. So now another quote from him. Where am I? Lost the place. Okay. How do I know that God puts on tefillin? Interesting question. Shnei Amar. Nishba Hashem bimino uvizra uzo. God swears with his right hand and with the strength of his arm. And now we elaborate on that. Bimino, with his right hand, zu Torah. That's a reference to Torah. Shenemar, it says a pasuk in Hazinu, mimino eish das lamo. That God gives the Torah with his right hand, a fiery law. So you see, his right hand seems to indicate Torah. Uvizra uzo, and the arm of his strength, elu tefillin. That's a reference to tefillin. Shnei Hashem oz lamu yitain. God gives strength to his people, and the word strength is a reference to tefillin. How do you know that? Minayin shat tefillin oz heim liYisrael. How do I know that tefillin is referred to as oz for the Jewish people? Deksiv, another pasuk, u kol amei haaretz ki shem Hashem nekra alecha v'yiru mimeka. This is the entire world will see the Jewish people. They'll see that God is called upon them, and they're going to be in awe of you. B'tanya Rabbi Eliezer teaches with regards to that pasuk, elu tefillin shabirosh. What exactly are the people going to see among the Jewish people that they're going to be so in awe? They're going to see everybody wearing their tefillin sharosh. So you see from there the fact that that which is called our Hashem Ozamu Yitain, the strength that's given to us by God, is being referred to. There's a lot of connections here. Rabbi Eliezer calls that the tefillin, and then we have another pasuk that Uvizara Uzo, God has this arm of strength also. So you see that God must wear tefillin. It's an interesting connection. This is all allegorical, obviously. Amrle Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Rav Chia bar Avin. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said to Rav Chia bar Avin, Hani tefillin demari alma. Okay, God's tefillin. Let's take for granted that He wears them. Maksiv b'hu. What's written in them? What are in His parshios? We have our parshios and our tefillin, but what does God have written in His? Okay. So they answer, Amar lei, Umi ka'amcha Yisrael ko'echad ba'aretz. Pasuk from Divrei Hayamim, we say a variant of this in Mincha on Shabbos Shemona Esrei, that and who is like your nation, O Israel, among the land. That Klal Yisrael is unique. God has a parsha that talks about the Jewish people's uniqueness. That's what's in this tefillin. The Gemara asks, God would have verses that talk about the Jewish people. I would have thought perhaps something more lofty, perhaps more about God. So the Gemara answers there's nothing wrong with that. God can have psukim in tefillin that actually are it's like ani the dodi v'dodi li, that he has tefillin that talk about his dedication to us, just like we have our tefillin that have dedication to him. The Chassid has a pasuk Hashem amart hayom. These verses in Devarim that Hashem made us designated to Him today. That God is, so to speak, married to us, and therefore God is certainly going to have verses in His tefillin that indicate His belovedness, the fact that He loves us. Sorry?
I mean, Hashem can't have any physicality. So, I mean, since we're supposed to be reflective of Hashem, can it be that we're the ones who are wearing the tefillin, and that's what they're talking about, as opposed to Him physically wearing a tefillin?
Well, we do wear tefillin physically, obviously.
But we're part of Hashem. So, I mean, by them saying that, can't they be talking about referring then to the fact that instead of Hashem's wearing the tefillin, that since we're wearing the tefillin, He's wearing the tefillin? I just can't find it hard, even allegorically, to say that He's wearing something. There's no physicality to Him.
I think ultimately, if I was to ask, what is the deeper message of this whole Agadah? I'm sure there's a lot more to be said for sure, but this is an Agadah that basically teaches us all that Hashem loves us. I think that's the main message. Just as we have tefillin as our symbol of dedication and that we put on each and every day, God is designated to the Jewish people. I would think that's probably the simplest nimshal that you could come up with.
Isn't that what Moshe saw, the back of Hashem's?
Right. We use this mashal further. We talk about when Hashem sees the back. When Moshe sees the back of Hashem, that he saw the back of God's tefillin sharosh. That perhaps Moshe got the greatest insight of this love for Hashem, of Hashem for the Jewish people. But back to the Gemara, the first wide line here. Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. God says to the Jewish people, Atem asisuni chativa achas ba'olam. You designate special praise for me in this world. I will have praise for you in this world as well. You praise me. You show certain endearment to me with your tefillin, so I will show endearment to you. You give me this unique praise, this cut, defined praise. Shenemar, as it says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Right? We have Shema Yisrael. That's talking about God's uniqueness. I'll give you your praise. Shenemar Umi Ka'amcha Yisrael Go'echad Ba'aretz. That's the verse that we talked about earlier of being in God's tefillin. That the Jewish nation is unique as well. We also have an attribute of Echad to us. We're unique. Amar le Rav Acha bereid the Rav Rav Ashi. Okay, fine. We just talked about Mikam Yisrael. That's one of the parshas that's in one of the housings of God's tefillin. But what about the other three? Right, or at least tefillin shalrosh. You have 4 compartments. Presumably, God's had 4 compartments also. So what are in the other 3 parshios? So Amarle, Rava responded back. Mi goy gadol. Umi goy gadol. So these are psukim that were in last week's parsha. The nations of the world are going to see the Jewish people. They're going to say, what's a great nation? A great nation is a nation that has God close to them. What's a great nation? A nation is a great nation is one that has beautiful laws like the Torah. Okay, so those are 2 parshios. Ashrecha Yisrael. Another verse that talks about how fortunate you are, Israel. Oh Hanisa Elokim. Another passage that talks about the uniqueness of the Sinai experience. Has God ever tested another nation like the way He's tested you? And He's placed you up on high. So all of these different parshios are in God's tefillin. But now the response is, if that's the case, you need a lot more than 4 housings. These are, I think we listed in total. We listed, and plus Mikamka Yisrael makes it 6, I think. So we've got 6 parshios. Right? Kimi Goy Gadol is actually Kimi Gadol and Mi Goy Gadol. We're going to get into the answer, you'll see. The answer is more than 4, and then we're going to combine a bunch of them together. Okay. Ella, so rather what do you have to say? Kimi Goy Gadol, Mi Goy Gadol, Tidamyan Lahadadi Bechad Beisa. The fact that those 2 verses are similar to each other, they share one parsha. It happens to be that those psukim go one after the other. So it's really all one parsha. I don't know why we don't just say that. But Ki mi goy gadol count as one parsha. Ashrecha Yisrael Mika Amcha Yisrael Bechad Beisa. Again, a similar theme. So those who are going to share housing, those count as one parsha. Oh Hanisa Elokim, talking about the uniqueness of the Matan Torah experience, so that gets it to Bechad Beisa, that gets its own. L'sitcha Elyon, and another verse that talks about the Jewish people being unique. Bechad Beisa, your grand total is 4. God's tefillin is therefore like ours. And all of them, I mean, we were talking about the different housings of the Shel Rosh, right, where they're all kept separate. You should know God wears tefillin Shel Yad also, and the tefillin Shel Yad, they're all together. They're all together on the arm, just like our tefillin Shel Yad has all the parshios on one scroll. Okay.
Omar.
Amar Ravin bar Rav Ada, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Ravin says as follows: Kol haragil lavo leveis hakneses v'lo ba yom echad. Let's say you're accustomed to go to davening to minyan on a regular basis to shul, each and every day, but one day you don't come. For whatever reason. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mashabo, Hashem asks about you. He says, well, what happened to Ploni? Well, why isn't he in shul today? Shenemar, as it says, Mi bachem yirei Hashem, who among you is considered one who is in awe of God? Shomea b'kol avdo, he who hears the voice of, so this is still a further description of God. This is not the answer to the question of who is somebody who is on awe of God. God, the being that hears the voice of his servants. So Asher Halach Kashkim Ve'in No Galo. He goes in darkness and there is no light for him. I think if the pshat of this pasuk is very different than the way we're going to be reading it out. But we're going to say that God listens to our voice, and for some reason we're going to attribute it to not going to minyan one day. That person is in darkness. There's no light for him. So the imla davar mitzvah halach. But however, we are going to clarify, if the person didn't go to minyan on one day because he's involved in a mitzvah, so no galo, then there will be light for him. We only said ve'ein no galo, there's no light for him. That's almost a conditional statement. It depends. Why aren't you at minyan? V'imla davar harashus halach. But let's say the person is going for something optional. He feels like going for a stroll that day instead of going to minyan. So ein no galo. There will be no light for him. It's not a good thing that he ruins his commitments there. And then the pasuk continues, Yivtak b'shem Hashem, he should have trust in God. Mai taima. So we're saying, what is the reason why this person doesn't have light for him when he doesn't go to minyan one day? Rishim dahavalei livtak b'shem Hashem. The pasuk is concluding by saying, the person should have had bitachon in Hashem, apparently, v'lo batak, but he didn't, and that's why he's not at minyan today. It seems to indicate that it's not just totally rishus. It's not that the person doesn't go to davening simply because they feel like doing something more optional. They didn't go to davening because they wanted to get involved with someone in terms of work of parnasa, and they didn't have faith that God would provide anyways, and that's why they didn't go to a minyan. And ultimately, that person doesn't have light. That's a very flawed way of thinking. That a person doesn't go to davening because they have so much to get done in the day. If anything, the logic should be the opposite. I have so much that I need to get done today. I need Hashem's help. I have to speak to him this morning. Okay. I'm Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan says, "B'shasha HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba b'veis hakneses lo matzah ba'asara." When God comes to shul, right? So we ask, how does he know? But sometimes, I guess he finds out after the fact. He comes to shul, finds out there isn't a minyan there. Miyadhu kois. He gets very upset. Shenemar madua basi ve'ein ish karasi ve'ein ona. This is a pasuk in Yirmiyahu, I think. In Yeshayahu. God says, why did I come? And there's no people here. I call upon my people and nobody answers. God is very disappointed when there isn't a minyan in a place, I guess, where there could be a minyan.
When they went for the bar mitzvah, no problem.
Right, and it's bar mitzvah, so his question is answered. He knows, okay, people went to, they're getting involved in other ways of serving me, fine. Amar Rav Chelba, Amar Rav Huna, Kol HaKovei HaMakom LeTfilaso, anybody that makes a makom kavua, a fixed place of where they should daven, L'halakha, we like to assume that this is within the same arba amos of a given room. Right? What does that do for you? That minimizes distractions. Right? It's a setting that you're familiar with. You're not looking around the whole time that you're davening. But also, some Rishonim seem to indicate that it really just means being in the same room. That you have a same place on a regular basis that you go to daven, but in a more general sense, not necessarily in the same arba amos. But in any event, you have a makam kavua. That's a good thing. And Elokei Avraham be'Ozro, the God of Avraham, is helping you. When such a person who had a makom kavua, a set place where he davened, when that person passes away, Omrim lo, it's said of him, apparently up in Shemayim, Ayonav, what a humble guy, Chasid, what a pious guy. This person was giving him a hesped in Shemayim. He must have been a student of Avraham, a true Talmud. Avraham Avinu minalan d'kavah makom. How do I know that Avraham Avinu had a makom kavua in his tefillah that we say that he's that if you do this you're a son of Avraham? Because it says Vayashkem Avraham baboker el makom asher amad sham. This is right after the incident of Avraham davening for Sodom to be rescued. Right? Didn't work out. Avraham's request was not granted. The next day he gets up, he goes to the same place. He davens there again. That's where he sees Sodom's destruction. But the word amad is also a reference to tefillah. Ve'in amida ela tefillah. Amida means tefillah as well. Shenemar, and that's what we call our Shemon Esrei, the amida. Ve'amud Pinchas vayipalel. This is a pasuk in Tehillim that's describing Pinchas's actions. And to be honest, the word vayipalel there doesn't necessarily have to mean daven. It probably means in Pinchas executed judgment. But at least allegorically, vayipalel also can mean tefillah. And so therefore, in that pasuk, standing and davening are juxtaposed. Why does this show, by the way, that there's a certain anivas, a certain humility of Avraham Avinu, the fact that he has a makom kavua? How does davening in the same place every day should indicate any humility?
What he asked for, and he came back.
Right. When Avraham had his request refused, right, he still goes to the same place. Why? Because he doesn't say, and this is perhaps why he's compared to Bilam HaRasha in Pirkei Avos, is that when he davens and he's not successful, he doesn't attribute it to anything external. He doesn't say, it must have been that I davened in the wrong place, must have been some other circumstance. He said, no, the problem lied in me somehow. The only way to fix my tefillah is not by going to a different place. Right? Not like Bilam did. Every time his tefillah wasn't answered, he said a bracha instead of a klala. So they said, let's try a different place. Avraham said, it's always about me. If my tefillahs don't work, it's something that either the answer is no, or that I shouldn't keep asking for this, or that I have to work on myself in some other way. And you express that it's all about you by davening in the same place, by not changing any other variable in your tefillah besides your own mindset, the way that you speak about things. Okay. Amar Rabbi Chalba, Amar Rabbi Ravuna. Rabbi Chalba said, "Hayotzi mi beis hakneses al yafsiya psiya gasa." When you're coming out of shul, do not take wide, large steps. That's an act of haughtiness. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, "Lo amrun ela lamepach." We only said this with regards to somebody who is leaving shul. Aval ameal mitzvah lamirhat. However, if you are going up to shul, then it is a mitzvah to run to shul. Shenemar, as it says, and I guess you're going to have wide steps certainly while you're running. Near the faladas as Hashem has the pasuk in. Hosea says, rush to go seek the knowledge of God. Amar Rabbi Ezra said as follows: Mireish ki hava chazina lahula rabbanan dekarahati leparka b'shabta. I used to get very upset. I originally saw these rabbinical students; they were running to the shir on Shabbos. Right, and this is on Shabbos. So Amina Kamachalian Rabbanan Shabta. Those rabbis, they're violating Shabbos. You're not supposed to run on Shabbos in general. They're not supposed to do that. Came in the Shema Lahu, the Rabbi Tanachum, I'm Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. But once I heard Rabbi Tanachum's following statement, and he would say as follows: La'olam yaretz adam lidvar halacha v'afilu b'Shabbos. A person should always run to hear words of Torah, even on Shabbos. Shenemar, as it says, Achrei Hashem yelchu k'ari yeshag. After God we walk and we roar like a lion, we go with a certain alacrity. So Ananami Rehitna, not only do I no longer criticize people that run to a shir on Shabbos, I run too. It's something that should be done even on Shabbos, to have that enthusiasm to go to do these mitzvahs.
Alacrity for Torah.
Right. La halacha, you're allowed to run for a dvar mitzvah on Shabbos, and if you think about it, anytime you're walking pretty much anywhere on Shabbos, it's either to go to shul, to go to your Suda Shabbos, to go hear a shir, to go to minyan. You pretty much have a heter to run almost any time you're going anywhere. But if you're just stop walking, so the person shouldn't perhaps run on Shabbos.
Well, you do lose your eyesight if you do a psiya gasa.
Right, there's also talking, right, psiya gasa gives a certain, there's another Gemara that seems to indicate that you lose eyesight, that it's a certain haughtiness there. I think there the exemption also applies. If you take a psiya gasa for a dvar mitzvah,
you get it back by Havdalah line.
And you get it back by Havdalah. There's a lot of deep ideas there. Right, but I guess the optimal way of living is, I think Shlomo Volbe, he says the way of Musar in his yeshiva it wasn't that you run to go do mitzvahs. You leave with plenty of time that you could actually come. You could come to davening not out of breath, not perhaps too tired, but you're able to come with an enthusiasm. That's why you left early. But at the same time, there's a certain calmness. Okay. Amar Rav Zera, Agar the Parka Ra'ata. While we're talking about running, the reward for a shir, Rav Zera says, It's not the learning itself, because come on, who remembers shir anyways? Rather, the reward for coming to shir is running. That's what Rashi says. It's not just my interjection. Amar Abaye says, and what's the reward for going to a big speech? It's that crushing that I guess meaning, well, what are you getting a reward for? Exposing yourself to being in that confined situation, perhaps because of mazikin, like we mentioned earlier. Amar Rava says, Igra deshmaita svara. The reward that you're getting for your learning is not necessarily information that you have gained, but it's because of your application of svara, of logically. When you train your mind to think in a certain way in learning, that's the real I guess behavior that's deserving of reward. Amar Rav Papa says, Argadeve Tamya Shasikusa, that the reward, what's the action that you do when you go to visit mourners, when you go to a house of mourning? Well, what are you getting a reward for? Not any of the small talk that you make that really just distracts the person from his avelos, but rather it's your silence just showing that you're with that person, that you sympathize with them. Amar Marzutra said, Agad Ta'anisa Tzidkasa. The reward for a fast, meaning what's the behavior in a fast that really is worthy of reward? It's tzedakah, right? We talk about the fast. Not eating food is not meant to be an end in and of itself on a fast day. It's supposed to inspire feelings of tshuva and actions of righteousness, of tzedakah.
Aniyim have food to eat after the kindness, Rashi.
Right, people had a minhag, I think, also that they would take the money that they would have spent on food that day, that they give that to tzedakah specifically to show how the fast is in fact channeling that money towards tzedakah. Amar Rav Sheshes says, Agra de hespeda de loye. The reward for a hesped. What are you really trying to accomplish essentially in a hesped? It's to evoke crying from others. Amar Rav Ashi says, Agra de vehilula hulule mile. When you go to a house of a party, of a wedding party specifically, the reward is the words that you say. When you cheer up the chassan, Rashi says, with words, and you say kalana, let's say, when you make him happy, you put him in good spirits on a day that he could obviously be very nervous. So that's the real goodness that you could do on that day, and that's what you get rewarded for. Ravuna, we're talking about weddings now. No, sorry, we're not talking about weddings now. We're going to come back to weddings shortly. Ravuna, nikra rasha. This is not as serious as it sounds, but Ravuna says if you stand in the back of shul, you're a rasha. Shenemar saviv risham yishalichun. It says a pasuk, and I believe where is this? Tehillim, I think. It's in Tehillim. Yes, the people that surround the people that surround the people are on the outside, right? So those are the people that are wicked. Amar Abaye says, "Lo arman ola de lo mahader ape levei kanishta." We're not talking about people that stand in the back. So if they're talking in shulchan, then that's certainly bad. But if we're not talking about people that just stand in the back. We're talking about people that actually, for some reason, are davening the other direction. They have their back to the shul, right? But if you're in the back of shul, you happen to be davening there, and you're facing the Aron just like everybody else is. You're facing your shalayim, so then there's no problem with that. When we talked about wicked people, we only talked about people that are davening in the opposite direction. There was a certain individual who did daven, so to speak, in the back of the shul, the bad kind. Right? He didn't have his face towards the shul. He had his face in the opposite direction. Eliyahu Hanavi passed by and saw this individual. Idmile ketaye. Eliyahu Hanavi made himself look. He disguised himself as a merchant. And Amarle, and he said to this individual davening in the wrong direction, Kadu bar kayamta kame marach. You are making it out as if there are two masters that are being served. Right? You're davening one direction, they're davening in another. It doesn't look so good. So then, Shalaf Safsara Vekatle. Therefore, Eliyahu Hanavi took out his sword and killed him. Sounds pretty serious. I'm not. Okay.
Recommending that.
Yeah. If you ever see anybody davening in the wrong direction, don't take out a sword and kill them. But Eliyahu felt that it was warranted. Amrei Haume Rabbanan the Rav Bibi bar Abaye. Rabbi said to Rav Bibi, but Amrei Rav Bibi the Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Others have the tradition in a different way. Mai krums lus livnei Adam. What is the meaning of this pasuk? I think this is a pasuk that we quoted earlier. The pasuk of Saviv Risham Yisalachun. Right, that on the periphery is where the Rishaim are. We talked about people davening in their own direction. The end of that pasuk is Krum Zulus Livnei Adam. What does that mean exactly? Amar Leh. So the response was Elu Devarim She'omdim Berumo Shal Olam. It's the people that are taking kirum, those that are like lofty things, the things that are very lofty, tefillah, uvnei adam mezalzalin bahem. Nevertheless, people denigrate tefillah, and that's what the word karum is referring to. Krum zalus, that they are mezalzel, the things which are high matters. When they daven in the wrong direction, they're showing a certain flippancy towards tefillah that is worthy of misa, apparently, from Eliyahu Hanavi. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Elazar, the Amrei Tarvayu, Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Elazar gave the following explanation of the pasuk: Kivrin din itztarech adam labrios, panav mishtanos kekrom. When a person needs help from others, he doesn't have enough. He can't make a living, right? So then his face changes like this krum. We're going to describe what a krum is, but his face changes, color and appearance. Shenemar, as it says, krum's list of bnei adam. Krum's list of bnei adam. Again, that pasuk seems to indicate some kind of changing of face in reference to tefillah. My krum, what is this krum? Kiasar of Dimi, Amar of Dimi said as follows: Echad yish bekrachei hayam. Ov echad yish bekrachei hayam. There is a certain bird that is in certain port towns, cities by the sea. The chrum shemo is called the chrum. The kivan shechama zarachas, when the sun comes out, when the sun shines, mishapek l'chama gadnim. This bird's face, or the bird's entire appearance, not just his face, changes into many different types, changes colors. So similarly, when we were talking earlier about a person's face changing when they need to get help from tzedakah, it's kind of embarrassing. Their face changes all sorts of colors. So then Ravami V'Ravasi Damar Tarvayu, they say as follows: Ki'ilu nidun b'shnei dinim. We're saying another interpretation of what Krum Zalus means is the person has two acts of judgment executed upon him, Eish Umayim, that of fire and water. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Hirkavta enosh l'roshenu banu ba'eish uvamayim. You mounted man to press him with fire and water. I'm not sure what this pasuk is a reference to. Anybody has a more literal translation of that pasuk?
That's just it's
a pasuk in the
It says here the plain meaning of the verse is you have mounted a mortal over our heads, but the Gemara understands the word over our heads to be an Aramaic root, which means to press for payment, acting as a creditor, and thus the verse says you have mounted a mortal
this pressing, right? We're talking about a person when he needs tzedakah. That's what his reaction is going to be, right? So that pressing, when your creditor comes and he's constantly pressuring you for money, so that's it's, so to speak, this person is being judged by fire and water. He feels very very much punished. It's very embarrassing. Okay, I'm not sure what the context of the pasuk in its literal sense is. It's somewhere in Tehillim. Okay, so see there. But Amar Rabbi Chelbo, Amar Rav Huna. Said in the name of Rav Huna, a person should be very careful about davening mincha. Why? Eliyahu Hanavi, he was answered specifically in an afternoon prayer. Shenemar. This is the Nevi'ei Habal story, right, where there's that showdown between Eliyahu and the Nevi'ei Habal. They both bring their karbanos. Eliyahu's is accepted, and the Nevi'ei Habals are not, and they get punished. Okay, Vayihi ba'alos hamincha v'yigash Eliyahu Hanavi v'yomer. As it says, the pasuk says the context where Eliyahu Hanavi davens to Hashem is apparently a mincha time. Aneni Hashem Aneni. He says, God, please answer me. Aneni sheterid eish min hashamayim. Why mention Aneni twice? For two things. First, is that the fire should come and ascend from heaven to accept Eliyahu Hanavi's carbon, which it did. And also help me that what I do accomplish does not get misattributed to witchcraft. That everybody recognizes that when this fire comes down and accepts my carbon, it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's not from witchcraft that I'm practicing. I think we have to stop here. Yeah?